One other recruiting thought to also keep in mind is the work of Kirby Smart and Georgia. I saw some
Oh, he's been
projections
killing it.
over the last 24 hours. I've seen projections, Stephen, and we know that after the early signing period, he had the consensus #1 class. Ohio State picked up a couple of commits that, in the eyes of some, based on the metrics, may have slid them a notch or two ahead just by percentage points. But Georgia seems to be in line that if they get anywhere close to their last 4 to 5 targets, that they're such elite players that they may have the highest rating number that's ever been registered since these go back to the early 2000s. It's that good.
It's crazy to see what Kirby Smart has done going into now his third year next season of being a head coach. You look at it, Mark, about 6 to 7 5-stars, including Justin Fields, the #1 dual threat quarterback out of Kennesaw, Georgia. They've got talent all over their field, and I understand Georgia losing a lot of Mark Richt's kids to the National Football League, whether that be Nick Chubb, Sony Michel, Roquan Smith, among others. But Kirby knows how to recruit. You know, you're coming out of that Nick Saban coaching tree, so you know how to recruit. You know how to make sure that discipline is in line. And, you know, Kirby's got a young staff around him. It's him. It's Mel Tucker. It's Jim Chaney, who did such a fine job with Jake Fromm this past season at quarterback. So Georgia's class, I'm not surprised by this. You got the coaches down there in Athens that know what they're doing. Of course, Georgia's a hotbed state for recruiting anyway, and Kirby the ability to keep a lot of those talented in-state kids in-state. So this is the main thing for Kirby Smart is going to be, can he be able to really develop this talent? Because if he can develop this talent, Georgia's going to be a force to reckon with for years to come. And that lusted for championship that Bulldog fans have wanted for quite some time, since 1980, when you talk Herschel Walker, could get here sooner than when most people think, if Kirby Smart can develop this talent.
As you well know, Stephen, there's so much talent in the South that if you're a good SEC program, if you're Texas A&M, Georgia, Tennessee, even Tennessee, as down as they are going to bring in a top 15 to 20 class. As down as they are, there's so much talent down there, and those programs are so entrenched that you or I could walk on campus and bring in a top 25 class. If you've got a pulse and if you've got a pulse and you're a good football coach, you're going to bring in a top 15 class at a place like that. But Kirby Smart has been able to build up such momentum and such a brand this quickly that, and you know how the momentum works there. Once you get a group of certain players, then they bring their buddies and say, this is where it's at. This is what's going on. And then it just builds up and builds up. And we see the opposite actually happening right now at Michigan, where they're coming off a down year in which they were supposed to be better. They lost 5 games. They've got a bit of a negative narrative going there, and Michigan's still going to do fine. They're going to be like 13th or 14th in the country. The sky is not falling. They'll be fine, but they've had guys lean and fall off the other direction because it's just not. There's some questions about where's the program and is it really going to happen there, where Georgia's the exact opposite. I've got some numbers here for you, Stephen. I was crunching these last night. Blue chip, meaning top 300 players, and where they hail from. This is not going to surprise anyone. Top 3 states over the last 5 years: Texas, Florida, California. If you put those 3 states together, Texas, California, and Florida, they own over 40% of the top 300 recruits. Then you've got a bit of a drop-off to Georgia. You got another little bit of a drop-off to Ohio. And then you've got a glut of Louisiana, Alabama, Virginia, North Carolina, all are substantial recruiting states. Now, Georgia in 2018, now I'm talking about not the school, I'm talking about, of course, the state of high school players, has really jumped up to close in on California and Texas. Here in 2018, Florida has the most 300 players, top 300 players with 65. California's at 48, Texas is at 44, Georgia's at 40, and then it really drops down to Ohio, Louisiana, North Carolina, Pennsylvania, Alabama, not even close to the upper echelon, but those would be the next level states. So it's extremely interesting to see where these players come from, and they continue to come from California, Texas, and Florida, And then after that, it's a lot of Georgia, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Alabama, South Carolina.
I just reflect back on, Mark, this national championship that Georgia was able to be in, and Kirby Smart is going to relish this when it comes down to recruiting and tidying up those loose ends in terms of National Signing Day. Because at this point, Kirby can walk up to any suspecting athlete and go, hey, we came up short last year. We were right there in the championship game, had a chance to win, and we came up short. But guess what? You can be the piece that gets us over the top. And what kid does not want to hear you can be the piece that puts us over the top and helps us win a national championship? So Kirby Smart is going to really play up the idea of, you come here. We came up short in 2017, but if you come here somewhere down this road between your freshman year and your senior year with us, you are going to win a championship, possibly maybe even multiple championships, because the culture is starting to change. I mean, I always felt like Mark Richt was a solid coach. He was a solid recruiter, well-spoken man, very reserved man. But when you look at Kirby Smart, this is a complete opposite. Great coach, great recruiter, very animated, in-your-face guy, and wants to get everything out of you. Very, very passionate guy. And there's something about that players are attracted to. They want to coach with passion. They want a coach that speaks their language, and they want a coach that is going to see not only the potential in them, but that's going to push to get every ounce of that out. And Kirby Smart is going to play up that championship to the upteenth degree, just to get players to understand you can be that 1% to get us over the top.
I think it's a great point, Stephen, because let's take Nick Saban and Urban Meyer in particular out of the equation. Their institutions, they have such a track record, such a culture of winning, and they're history-making coaches. When we talk about Nick Saban in particular, he would be number one. Urban Meyer would be number two. 20 years from now, we're looking at a coach in Nick Saban. Who knows how many national championships he's going to win? He's at 6 and still counting. He's at the best program in the country. With Urban Meyer, he's at 3. He's a relatively young man. He is like the 3rd best winning percentage in the history of the game. We're talking about institutions. Those guys are 2 of the top 5 coaches of all time. So guys are going to go play there anyway. They don't have to change. But the new breed of coach needs to be energetic, needs to connect with the kids, needs to show them that they're going to be engaged and involved. Maybe do a little dance in the locker room. The Dabo Sweeney, the Kirby Smart, that guy. Yes, that's the different culture. The other side of it, Stephen, I think that plays into it is these guys see their heroes at the professional level. The culture now is not what it was yesteryear, where the institution or the professional organization dictated everything. They see their guy LeBron go and build a team and rally up his guys and say, come play with us. And they do the same now because of social media and the connectivity they have with each other. They do the same thing at the collegiate level, and they kind of build their own little core teams.
They do. And it's always, and this is what makes recruiting so interesting, Mark, is that you may have 23, 24, 25 guys you sign in a class, depending upon the number you want to hit on. But there's always one guy or 2 people. It's always the 1 or 2 people in a class that are like the cheerleaders. They're the ones that once they commit, once they sign, once they are entrenched to where they want to go to, they are the guys that rally up the other 22 or 23. They're out there making phone calls. They're out there, on the recruiting trail saying, hey, I'm coming to play here. Come join me. It's almost like the Fab Five that played at Michigan back in 1991 in basketball terms, where you had Juwan Howard coming out there saying, hey, Chris Webber, I'm coming to Michigan, and you come too, and bring Jalen Rose with you, and bring Jimmy King, and it's always that one guy or 2 people that once they sign, they become the ultimate cheerleader, and they're bringing on everybody else. And they always have a hashtag, whether it's Savages want to play with Savages, or whatever the new hip hashtag is. They come up with a hashtag to draw in everybody.